Welcome, I'm Chips, and I've had several people in the comments here and on TikTok ask me to go over my settings and my controls, and people are just wanting me to like show them quickly in a quick video, but my controls are so different from most people that I figured I should actually talk through them. So let's go in here to options first. Most of these are going to be just individual to each person. There's nothing really too special here. The big one for me in air battle settings is bomb fuse. Once I set this to 2 seconds, I never had to worry about blowing myself up with my bombs ever again. I haven't done it since I moved it to 2 seconds. And I also haven't had very many people escape the bombs when I drop them on them with a 2-second bomb fuse, where they might be able to if I were to, say, extend the bomb fuse out by a few seconds. Another one here that most people should have on is indicate airspeed. The TAS plus IAS, both of those should be on just to give you a better idea of how fast your airplane's actually going so that you don't rip anything. When we get here, I've already done videos on these two, but grass and tank gunner sight and camera from tank gunner sight, both of these should be off. They just kind of make you better. Moving on, a bunch of these are kind of basic. Here, the big ones are the highlight projectile fall point, which just makes it easier to see where your shells are going, and follow bullet camera. I really like the look of the bullet camera, but it significantly slows down how fast you're able to fire, which just lowers your damage output, so I have that off. Here, this is pretty much all standard. I recommend that people turn off the title just because it takes up more room and you don't really have to. The rest of these are pretty much all kind of standard. For graphics, so I have my graphics set as high as they can go while still getting 144 FPS. I care more about FPS than I do about graphical fidelity, but I still want the game to look nice. I don't want to be playing on ultra low quality. I just think that ultra low quality looks horrible. So this is how I have it set up. The big one that people might be asking about is NVIDIA DLSS. So I have a card that supports DLSS, but I don't like the look of it because when you're moving a lot, it will cause some smearing, and that smearing looks horrible. So I just have DLSS turned off because of that, but I do still keep on reflex low latency because I don't notice really any difference with that. This setting right here, output device, I wish that more games incorporate this setting because I have a kind of special audio setup where my default audio channel is not where I send my game sounds to, just to make things easier to record and stream and whatnot. So being able to switch output devices is so amazing. And the rest of all these is just kind of personal preference for how you have your audio set up. Voice chat, I've never used voice chat, so I just turn it off. Internet radio, also a no. And Facebook, I haven't used Facebook since high school, and I don't plan on starting now. So now we can actually get into the important stuff. So I'll just kind of go through here. You'll see a bunch of things not marked, like the here and flaps down, flaps up, thrust reversal, fire primary weapons. I have all of these unequipped because or unbound because I don't actually use any of these buttons. So as long as I don't use a button, I don't have it bound, and that kind of just clears some things up. Right here with things like fire rocket and fire rocket salvo, I have those set to the same button, and I have those set to R because if you were to go in an aircraft that has rockets, the game will put up big blinking warning that you don't have a key bound for rockets or some other things. So I just bind those to R as kind of like the catch-all for that, because I use weapon select mode, which you can see right down here, and weapon select mode just kind of covers all of that. And you can see a whole bunch more stuff that isn't actually assigned to anything. Helicopters. This is the big one that I changed from most people. This is way different from standard. I got most of these helicopter controls from Hunter, who also has a YouTube channel. He put out a video of his controls like almost a year ago, and I copied his helicopter controls, and I gotta say, this makes flying a helicopter so much more easy. Once again, you can see that there's a bunch of stuff that isn't actually bound. That's all because of weapon select mode. Because with weapon select mode, I only have to press one button to fire all my secondary weapons. I just have to make sure that I have the right one selected. Another thing down here with the views. So if you set it to have shooter ATGM as being your only camera, then if I press that, I will switch back and forth from third-person view to the actual like ATGM view, and I found that ATGM view is good enough to use basically all the time if I'm not in third person. If I want to use the onboard helicopters camera and zoom in a whole bunch, I can use that. Besides that, as you can see, just a whole bunch of stuff that isn't bound to anything. Ground vehicles, this is mostly all default. I didn't really have much to change here. I've used these controls for so long that they're kind of just muscle memory at this point. I do have a few things unbound because I just never use them. Actually, a lot of things unbound. But most of these are just all default because I just got used to them. And the naval is completely default because I think that the naval controls, as much as people don't like naval, the naval controls are like pretty okay. Then common, here, bunch of them still unbound. Big one here is set target for squad. So what this does, if anybody wonders what that is the tilde key. But what this does is if you're in a squad with other people that you know, like IRL, you can press this key and it will put a bright yellow arrow that anybody on your squad can see from any point on the map. It will put it on the mini map and it will also put it in the world, and it is very good to kind of point out quickly what you're looking at, and it's better than just pinging on the map, because this will actually put a very noticeable arrow in the world that people can look at. Besides that, there's also some weird stuff like right alt +9. Like, I'm only going to hide the HUD if I'm taking like a thumbnail photo, so I don't need this bound to anything that I'm going to use pretty much at any time. And then other ones like right here, these are all just default and whatnot. And then spectator camera is also completely default. I barely ever use the spectator camera, so I don't really have anything to change. And that is all of my controls. As you can see, I get some warnings like this, but fire air to ground missile, I have that under weapon select mode. Helicopter, drop bombs. Fire air to air missile, drop guided bombs. Once again, all covered under weapon select mode. And then these, like, I'll need individual buttons for that. So that is all my controls and settings. Hopefully you found some of this useful. If you want to try out my controls, I recommend that you use this export to file and import from file function. This is also helpful if, say, after an update, all of your controls get reset. if you save them as a file with this export to file function, it will actually make it so that you don't have to worry about your controls ever getting reset again, because you can always just import from a file. So if you say want to try out all of mine, you can just export your old settings or your old controls to a file, try out my controls. If you don't like them, you can just import your old controls from a file. So hopefully this was all helpful. If you have any questions about how I have something set up or why I have something set up, just leave it in the comments.